Who taught you to heat the color of your skin?
In Cuba.
For years, Black Americans lived in fear of police. The system that held responsibility for upholding the law broke it to appeal to the white population's fear. For decades, white Americans were allowed to play out their violent rages on any Black American they chose. Thousands of African Americans that were victims of white supremacists are still being looked for today, especially with the discrimination within the government. Every African American was at risk no matter what they did. Police did not protect and serve, but instead made sure that it was nearly impossible to ever advance in America as a Black individual.
If we saw the police brutalize anyone, we put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand because we were armed. And if the police arrested the individual, we'd follow him to the jail and bail the individual out, whether he was a Panther or not. And we would gain many recruits like this. So therefore, the community started to say that, well, these people are really concerned about our welfare.
Malcolm X was a man who openly spoke out against white oppression and inspired African Americans to fight against the racist system. The influence of Malcolm X's ideas were seen years later in the creation of Black empowerment groups like the Black Panther Party. Malcolm X's speeches have made a remarkable impact on the route towards fighting the dismantling of African Americans' systemic oppression. The Black Panther Party was an African American revolutionary establishment that was created in 1966. At the beginning, the purpose of this organization was to protect and patrol neighborhoods where Black families lived from police brutality. Over time, the organization branched out to also offer support to African American families in poverty. Group homes, charity kitchens, and educational facilities are all examples of just some of the things that were accomplished as a result of the founding of the party.
Malcolm X's speeches were a crucial part of many African American groups. In the year of 1964 in June, he himself founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which stood up not because it was white race, but as identified as racism as the enemy of justice. His speeches were considered as quote-on too rough and aggressive, hence why he never worked with Martin Luther King Jr., who was known as quote-on a sophisticated speaker. Their mannerisms were completely different. His words and perspective on racism opened eyes and inspired others. When Malcolm X was assassinated, he was one of the reasons on why the Black Panther Party was an organization and how it became alive.
The founders of the Black Panther Party are Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. Robert George Seale, also known as Bobby, was born October 22, 1936 in Liberty, Texas. During World War II, Seale's family relocated all across Texas until they moved to California and settled in Oakland. Seale ended up dropping out of high school and joining the Air Force. After 3 years in service, he was removed due to misconduct and came back to Oakland where he began to seek higher education. He attended Merritt College where he joined the Afro-American Association. In this group, he met the person who would end up changing his course of life, Huey Newton. Huey P. Newton was born in Monroe, Louisiana on February 17, 1942. He and his family moved to Oakland, California. He graduated from Oakland Technical High School without having accurate literacy, but later learned how to read. He attended various universities, including the Merritt College, where he met Bobby Seale and the Afro-American Association. While in this association, they openly criticized how centrist the organization really was and how much it wanted to appeal to the white populations instead of truly helping the Black population. These two shared similar views about immediate Black liberation and openly admitted that they were inspired by many points made in Malcolm X's speeches.
Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton started off with something as simple as owning weapons in a police patrol. Knowing the dangers that terrorize their Black community at the hands of the police, they would listen to the police patrols carefully, and if there was anything that sounded suspicious, they would drive to it. If they say the police perform any brutal acts, they would put an end to it, peacefully or not. If the individual was arrested, they would put together some money, mainly from selling books, to bail them out. Many people wanted to join the cause to make sure that others wouldn't have to suffer the same unjust hands they had endured. The community began to build trust in the organization known as the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Seeing how much effort they put into assuring the well-being of people, for the first time in history, promises were actually made true. This excited the vast majority of Black individuals and inspired hundreds of people to join the organization. The Black Panthers were mainly recognized for their displayed weapons, black leather jackets, and berets. There was power in coming together as a community to stand up against something. Over time, they dropped the quote-unquote for self-defense part of their name and became just the Black Panthers. They were no longer just a self-defense group, but a large political group. In summary, they described their hope for some things that they hoped to accomplish with the community. They came up with a list of 10 points that the Black community had collectively decided were essential. The freedom to determine the destinies of their own communities, full employment for African Americans, decent housing, and to the theft of greatness in Black communities, honest and decent education that does not hide the dark secrets that America has to be exempt from military service. An end to police brutality. All Black incarnated individuals will be released as they did not have fair trials with all white juries and diversified juries.
After the organization had gained nationwide popularity, they began to sell the Black Panther newspapers. Half of the profits went to the organization itself, another half went to paying the members of the organization. With the cost of about 25 cents per newspaper, the organization was gaining great profits, as it was estimated that just in 1970 alone, there were approximately 140,000 copies around the country. In addition, much of the revenue went to setting up community programs to feed children, offer medical care, free transportation to visit loved ones in prison, free clothes, classes for adults, campaigns, and voter register assistance. The first and most successful community program was the free breakfast program. Many children were offered reduced lunch in school, but not many were offered completely free lunch. With so much poverty, families were often unable to lend their children money to buy lunch, so many children were left going to school hungry. In early 1969, Bobby Seale planned the program with Father Earl Neal and Parisher Bruce Beckford Smith, who coordinated the program with neighborhood mothers. By 1971, 36 cities had implemented the breakfast program anywhere they could, in places like churches, local businesses, and organizations. In 1969, the National School Lunch Program admitted that the Black Panthers' free breakfast program had fed more poor children than the school's lunch program in California did. The Black Panthers completed generous deeds in the community, but most importantly, they showed that it was possible to stand up against oppression and make a difference, even when all of the odds were against them.